Hello everyone. Today I'm here in Golem Forest. Hello, here with my husky. Today I wanted to grind here at Golem Forest because last time I was in Leaf Ray and I was grinding Dark Rash. But today I wanted to come here, change up the environment, change up the scenery, and come to a place where I know that a lot of people have nostalgic memories with. So I wanted to come to Golem Forest because I know a lot of players have nostalgia with this map. I do too. When I played back in the day, I used to grind here a lot. And this map is really well suited for warriors. And I used to grind here back when I was like level 52 all the way up to, I don't know, 70. And this map is amazing. And it's really just an overall, it shocks me even now because I did a little bit of grinding last night here. And surprisingly, my EXP was going up relatively fast, if not the same. Faster, if not the same as when I was training at Leaf Ray with Dark Rash. Now the drop table here at Golem Forest isn't that great. You could get glove attack 60% here. That's probably the most expensive thing, valuable thing that you can get, the scroll. Other than that, this place is notorious for dropping a lot of equipment items. So we're just going to get started here and start grinding. And I kind of wanted to start the video. I thought about what I should talk about today on video as I'm training. And I thought about what I'm qualified to talk about because, you know, I could give advice and recommendations on what jobs I recommend, what tier, like what tier is a Dark Knight or Dark Knight or Night Lord, what tier is a what is it, a bandit? What's bandit's fourth job advancement title? Chief Bandit, I think. What are they? Can't remember in English. I think they're called Shadowers in Korean, but I don't know if they're called Shadowers in English. Anyways, I can't remember. Or what tier is a Bowmaster, a Paladin? I just don't think I'm well equipped to talk about those things. Because if I'm being honest, I didn't play, at least in old school MapleStory, the highest I got to was like level 85 or 90. You know, so I never went to Zakum or Horntail in old school. I went after Big Bang. And I went a couple of times in like a private MapleStory server, but not in an actual old school MapleStory true to how it was prior to Big Bang. So I crossed that off my list. And I got to thinking, and I think it's just easier and best for me to talk about what I would want from the Classic Maplestory 2.0 that's coming out in NA. Hopefully it comes out soon. From the looks of it, it should come out early next year. I know Oh Han-byul, the director in North American MapleStory, at MapleCon and MapleFest talked about how the game is essentially done, ready to be released, but they want to do, you know, last round checkups to make sure everything is flawless. And I believe there's a closed beta testing going on right now. So we're like right there. We're right there from it being released. And, you know, part of me is really excited, but part of me is also very worried. And I'll tell you why I'm worried. I don't know about you guys, but the MMORPG genre has been, at least I feel like it's been dying. A lot of people rather play single player RPG, or if it's an MMO, it's released as an MMO. If a game is released and it is released as an MMO, it doesn't really feel like an MMO, at least to the extent that I feel like, or at least to the extent that I'm aware or my knowledge of what an MMO is. MMO should be social. It doesn't need to feel like an arcade. It doesn't need to be too if it has action, if it has an action MMORPG elements to it, that's fine as long as everything else is good. But usually what happens with action based MMORPG is that it becomes a damage fest. It becomes a game full of people trying to pump out their numbers and setting new records, and that becomes the meta. And the holy trinity and class identity becomes blurred. And that's what I don't want to happen in Classic MapleStory. Well, at least the MapleStory that's coming out. In old school MapleStory, so when I say old school MapleStory, I'm talking about MapleStory that we all played when we were kids in 2000. When I talk about Classic MapleStory, I'm talking about the MapleStory that will come out in 2026, with the intention of it keeping it true to how the game was back in early 2000. So old school MapleStory. But in old school MapleStory, your identity, your class identity was solid. It wasn't all about numbers. Now, granted, because it is a video game, damage output was a thing, was a real thing. But just as real were the people who played off meta classes, simply for the fact that they had utility to cover up the lack of damage that they would bring. And with that brings class identity, with that brings variety, and people trying out new things. And I want that to be the case for MapleStory 2.0, Classic MapleStory. I hope the director and the I hope the people developing the game, developers and the directors of MapleStory Classic, keep that in mind and really design a game where everybody can play all sorts of different class and not feel pressured to or not have to second guess on what class they should play because they're worried about late game content and worry about not being included in parties or raids. That's what I don't want, because I'm one of those people that likes to play off meta classes. I played a Shadower up to level 134 in private MapleStory for that reason. I've played a Sniper whereas a lot of people will play Bowmaster, but snipers they're those rare gems that you see walking around because you don't see them often, but they have the same utility and buff as a Bowmaster. And sometimes, I would say in certain cases, they have they're more equipped to be part of a party. Bowmasters are usually the go-to, right? When people play archers, they will, by default, most of the time, like maybe 70% of the time, 80% of the time, will go and play the Bowmaster with the bow. And that 30% of the time when you see someone that's playing a crossbowman or a sniper, it's really cool. It's really refreshing. And those people can have that. Well, I'm talking about here in Mapleland. The people that play snipers can safely play snipers because they know even if they don't bring the highest damage, they will still be included in the late game content with raids because they offer the same amount of they offer the exact same utility as a Bowmaster does, while generally this is the common, I guess, the common understanding by players that Bowmasters are stronger than snipers. But it's not all about damage in this game, you know? Like where you lack damage, another Night Lord can cover up the damage, and people don't stress out about it too much. Now, if the party was barely making the threshold to go to Zac, Zakum, or Horntail, and people's average level was pretty low, I'm sure the guildmaster or the party leader will reconsider and, you know, tell the sniper, hey, maybe next time, or maybe here in like in a few months when everybody's level's gone up a little bit, we can include you. But I don't think even that happens, you know. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here and give both sides. Wow, I'm getting a lot of loot here today. I already got 2 and I've only been here for a little bit. So it looks like I got a level 60 thief hat and a level 60 warrior top. Nothing too fancy. These are all just going to get NPC'd and get sold. But as I was saying, I want MapleStory Classic to keep that in mind and not make it about a damage. Make it about a game that's just about damage. I want the class identity to be strong. I want the community to welcome off-meta classes. Maybe we can add some buffs to make sure that instead of always going with Night Lord in a party, we can bring a Shadower in. And that already happens at Horntail, but I'm talking about in general across all spectrum of classes. The biggest one would be Paladin, right? Like Paladins, at least when it comes to warriors, are the least welcomed into parties for boss raids due to their just damage being a lot lower than compared to a hero or a Dark Knight. Because and that's with developer intention too, because Paladins, I believe, were created to be a class that doesn't require a lot of potions while you're farming, while you're grinding. It's very safe to farm with it because they have the ability to freeze enemies also stun enemies. So therefore, as long as you're paying attention and using the utilities as the developers intended it to be used, you shouldn't have to use many potions, which ultimately saves you money as you're playing the game. But the opposite side of that same coin is that you do the least amount of damage. And because, like, imagine if you had the amount of CC as a paladin, but you're still doing the #1 damage amongst all warriors. You know, it just isn't balanced. And there's some beauty into the game not being balanced. I don't like when games try to overbalance and make it, because that also steals away from class identity too. So my thing would be like if So as I was saying, I hope the developers keep in mind what made old school MapleStory the game it was. It was a community-based game where everybody could play any type of character. There was no meta. It wasn't crazy damage focused. The highest number, and one of my pet peeves, not pet peeves, but one of the reasons that turned me off when I try a new MMO is another one is the huge numbers you see when your character does damage. I know some people might enjoy that, but I don't. And I'm sure a lot of people can agree with me that they don't either. But there are some few that do. But, you know, for me, I like to be able to see the damage that I'm doing, and it's readable. Like it's calculable. I can calculate it. I can see the damage. I can make sense of it. You know, right now I'm doing 2300 to 3000 on my Dragon Buster for damage. But if you go to current MapleStory or any other MMO you play that's similar to MapleStory, the damage fills up the whole screen with like 5 lines, and it's non-stop damage, and honestly it hurts my eyes, and I don't even know what I'm looking at, you know. I can't even comprehend the numbers that I'm seeing when I use my skill sometimes. That's a huge turnoff for me. Another thing that I don't like about the state of the MMO right now in the gaming industry is that it holds your hand too much. The game is too easy. You can beat an MMO or an RPG just by following the in-game guide navigational system. It holds your hand, it highlights the quest item, it tells you where the quest item could be found. I don't like stuff like that. I like to be able to I don't like my hand being held. Not only that, but I don't like being told what to do in a game. I like the freedom of me being able to explore and do what I want to do. And I don't want to have like 7 things on my screen telling me to look here, here. Your attention needs to be here because you're missing out on a daily or a weekly. Click here to check in for a daily reward. Just not a fan of that stuff. I know part of that is the developers and the company trying to make money, and they're trying to monetize off those things. But maybe they can find a different way to monetize off the game. For instance, in old school MapleStory, the way the company made money was simply by selling cosmetics. You sell cosmetics that you could put on a player or on your character, and your character would look so cool and stylish, you know. Right now, my character has no cosmetics other than this pig that I got from an event for free. But when you play this game, you'll see some players that are wearing jeans with a t-shirt, and they're wearing a hat, and you know they drop like $5 to $10 to make themselves look unique and different. And another component to why, and speaking of unique and different, another component to why I would want the monetization strictly coming from cosmetics is that the game first wouldn't be pay to win. The game would stay relatively fair across all users because there's no money involved to making your character stronger. So whenever someone does reach level 120, 150, 200, you know it's a huge accomplishment, and there's a sense of like, oh wow, look at him, an aspiration, you know. There's a sense of just awesomeness. And when I was young playing, I mean, to expand that a little further and tell you a brief story about my life and the time when I was playing MapleStory as a kid. I know back in 2000, I remember back in 2003, I was playing MapleStory and nobody had reached level 200 yet. But we took pride. I remember I played in the server called Scania, and there was this guy who was basically a ranker. You know, you could go to the MapleStory website and click on a little section where it says rankings, and it would show you the top players by experience points across all realms of the world. So it could be Scania, Belicon, Windia, and there were a lot of like worlds. We call them worlds. And you would see the top ranker from your world be within that first page or by the second page, and you would cheer them on because only 10 people could be on a page, on that ranking page. And if out of maybe 30-40 worlds, if your server was on it and some high level ranker was representing your world, you would feel pride. You would feel a sense of, wow, you know, you're cheering him on to keep going. There was that type of friendly competition that I really miss and that I really enjoyed. And once you introduce pay to win elements, that stuff kind of goes away, you know. It's not as intense as it could be if you know like the game has no pay to win elements. So when it comes to monetization, I really hope the developers keep it simple by offering cosmetics and that's it. And maybe a pet system. So this little guy is my husky, and he's a hard worker. He goes around picking up my items, and he also uses potions for me when I get below a certain threshold in HP and MP. And it's a quality of life type of spend. It's a quality of life monetization, which I can get on board with because it's not game breaking. I mean, all this guy really is doing is picking up my items and using my potions for me, you know, and I can get on board with that as long as there isn't an element where you can spend money to get like a super overpowered item. I'm on board, and I hope they are thinking that too. Another thing about Classic Maplestory that I would like to see is keeping the game true to how it was in old school MapleStory when it comes to art, when it comes to like the theme. It's hard to explain, but old school MapleStory has this, obviously the illustration and the art is very childlike, is kid friendly, right? But even in that type of art style, you find monsters that are just honestly terrifying. You know, you look at them as an adult, of course you don't think too much about it because it's a video game, but when you really look at some designs of monsters, it's terrifying. It's kind of like creepy. For example, if you look at Evil Eye or Cold Eye, those little lizards with one tail and one eye, you look at them and you actually, you know, take a second to like process what you're looking at, and it's a creepy monster. You know, it's a creepy monster. And so it's a I don't want it to be too bright and too colorful, because look at this environment here. It's all very like mellowed out color and easy on the eye and neutral, I would say. And it's not like super pastel neon lights everywhere, and I'm not a fan of all that either, because it's hard on the eye and it just feels too desperate for my attention. Whereas I come in this game and I feel relaxed, and I really don't even feel the time go by when I'm playing the game. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for an adrenaline rush. I'm not looking for a dopamine rush. I'm looking for a different type of dopamine rush that comes from kind of mindlessly grinding here and training, and all of a sudden you get hit with, you know, a scroll that drops from a monster after you kill it, and a dopamine just goes pew, and you feel great for a second, right? That's the type of dopamine that I would like. I don't want constant stream of dopamine, but something that feels fulfilling and rewarding, because I know I put in the time and the work. And that type of enjoyment, I would say, can be applied to leveling as well. I don't want them to make the leveling process easier. By the looks of their trailer, it looks like they're trying to make it somewhat easier, because they're giving clerics and fire mages a huge buff, from what I can see, by giving them a base crit chance and their attacks doing multi-enemy hits. It used to be a single target spell with clerics and fire mages with fire arrow and I believe a holy arrow. It would hit one enemy one time, but now it looks like it's hitting like 3 enemies 3 times, or 1 enemy 3 times. It shoots out 3 arrows, and it gets evenly distributed based on how many monsters are in front of you. It seems really interesting and cool, but I can't help but worry that it's going to take their identity away, or it's going to take the feeling of being accomplished and fulfilled away. Fire mages were already... Because fire mages were so rare and not a lot of people played fire mages, fire and poison mages, when you see a really high level fire and poison mages, there's this sense of, oh dang, look at this guy, he really did it. He played an off meta character and got to level 150 with the shittiest kit in second and third advancement, and he still made it to fourth advancement. Because the truth is, fire poison mages, they're not very welcomed in parties. There's no really need for them in anything, really. They have to kind of grind by themselves. So when you see a high level fire poison mage, there's this sense of, whoa, wow, give him a round of applause, because he made it. He made it to fourth advancement, and now he's a flower that's blooming. He has poison mist, he has meteor strike, he has all these cool spells that most of us probably will never see, and he's using it, and he's, you know, at a high level training ground and doing his thing. So that's what I'm talking about, I guess, when it comes to like, I'm okay with them making tweaks and changes to the class, but some of me worries. Okay, what's another thing? Let's see. When it comes to MapleStory Classic, I hope they can take the game that exists now and expand upon it, but in a linear fashion. But it looks like they're trying to do more of a they're trying to develop the game, take the original game, and look at individual NPC stories in the beginning zone. Like the developer talked about Manji from Perion and his story with the with his story with the Gladius and something like that. Well, we didn't really, there's a quest line for Manji that you can complete, but the story is kind of incomplete. So when I heard the director talk about how he wants to explore that and make it into a whole zone or into a content of itself, it had me intrigued, but I don't want the game to spread out too thin. You know what I mean? Like, especially in the beginning area. I want the game to stay how it's at and progress linearly, but at a very, very slow pace. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Right now, when I talk about Manji and Chief Stan at Genesis, these guys are characters that you can meet at level 1 when you start the game. And their stories are simple. You know, I think Chief Stan has a daughter that he's trying to get back in Perion, and it's a beginning storyline, beginning quest that doesn't go much further. It stops at like level 25. And Manji's the same thing. The highest level quest that he gives is a level 50, and his story, although it's lengthy, it comes to an end relatively it comes to an end eventually, and it doesn't take that long to complete. That initial zone and experience of MapleStory, I just don't want it to get robbed or be altered too much to the new players that are coming in, because I have an opinion, and I think the old school MapleStory game is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to fulfilling my list of what an MMO should be. I believe it's a 10 out of 10 game, and if they try to alter that too much, I worry that it's going to change the game in a way that it's not recognizable, or it's not an old school MapleStory anymore. And I would like the game to, after Horntail and then Pink Bean, I want the game to follow that route, that tradition of releasing a boss maybe every 2 years or 3 years. It doesn't need crazy updates. But if you're going to release a new continent, do it every 2 years. Take some time, because, and I'll tell you why later, but I want them to take time on releasing new content, like every 2 years with a new boss. After Pink Bean, let's say 2 years go by, and it's been 2 years since the timeless temple or whatever it's called is released, and now they can come out with a new region with a new boss and a new story and a new area for high levels to go grind and go conquer the next raid. But make that, I want that to be, I want achieving on conquering the next raid boss to be really, really difficult. So when it's actually done, people can make a video on it on YouTube and people can look at it and all celebrate together that it happened. It finally happened, that they conquered, I don't know, like let's give a random name for the next raid boss. The Golem Giant. People finally conquered Golem Giant and the average level was 190 and they needed like 30 people, 5 parties of 6, 30 people in there beating this thing, and they made it very close. I mean, just think about the amount of hype and the amount of just emotion that will come from watching people clear that. So make the progression hard and steep so there could be some fulfillment, and make the releasing of new content slower, maybe about 2 years. And here in Mapleland, they release new content about a year, I believe 6 months to a year, and in between those releases, they fill it up with events, like little events, a Halloween event. What did they do prior? Like if it's summer, they'll do a summer party event. When Christmas time, which is comes, they'll do a Christmas event. And it's nothing crazy. It's nothing game breaking. They'll just give out some chairs or something. They'll give out a chair that you can, it's like a collectible item. They'll give out like emotes. And they'll also give out coupons for 2 times the experience points for like 15 minutes. So it's still it gives you the sense that the game is alive and the developers are active, and the game always feels like it has something going on, right? Without releasing new content every time to make the game feel alive, they hold these events with items that aren't game breaking. It just makes your gameplay more enjoyable every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. So when it comes to Classic Maplestory, I hope the developers I hope the developers do the same thing, where new content is released maybe every year or so, but in between you have these fun events that you could participate in with your friends. Summer party event, pool party event, cherry blossom event, Christmas, Halloween, anniversary, whatever it is. Make the game feel alive. Whatever it is that they can do, it makes the game feel more alive, and the developers are there with us. So I want the game to progress in a linear fashion with a lot of time in between the progression. So that's just one thing. Another thing that I would want from Classic Maplestory, I want the game to be true to itself. I want people to go through what we all went through when we played Maplestory. I want them to have the experience of training at Genesis Hunting Grounds 1 with other people and struggle like we all did, because that's what makes the game fun. We can't always play a game that holds our hand and gives us 500 potions, and there's no sense, like, why am I playing the game at that point? I'm just sitting there clicking buttons and I don't feel anything. So I want the new players, because I'm gonna have a lot of friends that try the game, and some of them it's gonna be a new experience for them. I want it to be an enjoyable experience for them as well, and all the people that are going to be playing MapleStory Classic for the first time, I want them to see what kind of a gem MapleStory truly is, and have some hope in the MMO market, and maybe those people will experience MapleStory and later in life take a shot at developing a game based on MapleStory. You just never know. So keeping true to how it was is important for me, because I mean, imagine they released a new continent and it's a low-level continent, right? And the idea of kerning party quest goes away. It'll be there, but it just doesn't become the most meta thing to do. And eventually what happens is, if it's not the most efficient, if it's not the best way to gain experience points, eventually what happens is it gets fade out, and it gets harder to find people to play with at Kerning Party Quest over time, more and more and more. Why would you do that if you could just go to a new continent and stand in one platform and press one button and it can just kill everything from that one spot? So, you know, I'm very wary, cautious about what he's saying when he says he wants to expand the low level NPC stories and kind of take it somewhere else. It gets me a little worried. I'm not gonna. Another thing I would want from Classic Maplestory, I don't know about you guys, but one of the fondest memories I have from my childhood memory from playing MapleStory is that it comes from the party quests. I did a lot of party quests, and it was my favorite way to level, and it was a lot of people's favorite ways to level, because it forced you to get in a party and interact with other people, solve quizzes, overcome challenges, kill the boss for a reward. I mean, it was the perfect system that MapleStory had, where you honestly don't even feel the time go by. And it was just an awesome feeling to get in a party with your friends, especially when the game was relatively new and you don't know how to solve the quiz, or you struggle together to figure it out. That's awesome too. That's awesome because you're learning together, you're cooperating and figuring things out together to see how this works, how to get to the next stage. And then you get to the boss, you see a huge monster that you've never seen before in the game, and it's like doing so much damage that you've never felt that type of damage from a monster before. So it gets you engaged, it gets you awake, it gets you to focus, because you don't want to die. You want to be able to stay alive and continuously output damage and eventually kill this thing, so you and your party can finish out the party quest. So it's very engaging, party quests. And even when it wasn't new, the party quest, let's say, has been out for 10 years and everybody knows what to do at what stage, whatever, yada yada yada. Just the simple fact that it puts you in a party with other people, there's all the ingredients for things to happen that is outside of the norm. You have 5 other people, in I'm thinking of Ludi party quest. You have 5 other people, and those individual 5 other people are all and like anything could happen in a party of 6 people. Someone might disconnect, and now you have to figure out how you're going to beat it with 5 people. Someone might die at the boss, or 2 people might die at the boss, and now you really have to pull through and make sure you can finish out with 4 people in your party. Some people are just assholes, and that itself creates core memories. Like, as surprising as that sounds, dealing with assholes give you memory other than your routine, mundane life of just grinding alone or going to a training ground alone to not interact with other people. Because you want to save yourself from dealing with other people, you miss out on a unique opportunity of that moment, even if it's dealing with an asshole, to create a memory, to laugh about it later down in life. And remember that asshole from Ludi Party Quest that refused to drop his tickets so we could go to the next stage? Yeah, remember that guy? Remember what he said? Like, ha ha ha, it's so funny. Yeah, you remember those times? Like, it's I personally like it. I personally will welcome it. I'll welcome party quests, and I hope the developers build the game. It has a lot of party quests now already, but I hope they expand on that and make leveling streamlined by encouraging people to cooperate together, whether that's through party quest or being in a party and training together in a party. So I hope they encourage that, and not take the route of comfort and efficiency and censoring, and like, oh, this person might say something harmful to this person, or oh my god, there's drama between two people, so our solution is let everybody farm alone by themselves in a game and have no interaction. No, like, I don't want that. I'd rather deal with people and their differences and their uniqueness than sit here and grind by myself without having to interact with other people. What's another thing? I don't know. I just hope MapleStory Classic comes out. I'm like super excited, but I'm just super worried about it, I saw that they're making a lot of changes to what exists when it comes to skills. I know they're changing holy symbol for priests and how much experience points it gives out. I think all classes are getting base percentage critical chance. I kind of like that, honestly. I don't think it's going to be two game breaking, but I want to be careful with what I say, because I don't know yet. I don't know how it will be, if I'm being honest. So we'll see how that goes. They're changing, I believe, assassins a little bit, so their distance of throwing stars are now like significantly shorter than the bowmen. It used to be like a very small difference. Like somebody said there is a difference. I thought there was no difference. That's how it was very minute. But somebody said there is a range difference between a bowman and an assassin, but it's so minuscule that honestly it's insignificant. But apparently I think they're trying to give some edge to the bowman, because Night Lord for 20 plus years have just been killing it. They're the most versatile. They're sought after in a party. They do the most damage. So they're trying to, I think, give bowmans a little bit of an identity, a uniqueness to playing a bowman. You could be really far back and still hit an enemy from a distance, whereas you're playing an assassin and throwing stars, you need to be like not in the middle. Like if there's a warrior bowman, assassins don't need to be in the middle, but maybe like 3/4 of the way. You know what I mean? So they're not as far as the bowman. They're not exactly in the middle, but they're like right there. That would give the class uniqueness and identity, I think, because the whole idea of a bow, if you shoot a bow compared to throwing a throwing star, that bow's gonna go far, especially if you're an expert bowman. So I like that idea. What other changes are they making? I mean, I'll welcome anything, at this point, when Classic MapleStory comes out, I'm gonna definitely give it a go. And I know I'll enjoy it because my friends will be playing with me. But I'm gonna in the back of my mind kind of analyze what they've done and the changes they've made, and I'll notice too, because I've played this game for a long time. Let's see, how long have I been here? I've been here for almost an hour. In an hour, I got 3 drops. Not bad, not bad. I love coming here. This place, if you're a Dragon Knight, this is like the place to make money. You just come here and you grind for about an hour or two, and you're leaving with at least 500,000 mesos. Well, it's nice being here. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below on what you want from Classic MapleStory, and just if you want to just leave a comment to talk about the things I've said, and if you have anything that you don't want to see in Classic MapleStory as well, comment that below. All right, peace.